Welcome back to Corporate Elements. Today's conversation is about something that quietly shapes careers more than most people realize. The gap between who we think we are at work and how others actually experience us. Because in most workplaces, people don't respond to our intentions, they respond to our signals. And sometimes the difference between the two comes with the invisible friction holding people back. And joining us today is Leslie Ferry, founder of Brize, creator of Zandra, and the host of the Career Edge podcast, where she explores workplace dynamics, leadership, communication, and the hidden human side of professional growth. Leslie, welcome to Corporate Elements.
Well, thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
Do you think the lack of awareness is more common than people realize?
I think it's different than what people realize. And because we if we were to say, did I actively listen in that meeting and did I observe nonverbal cues? Did everybody walk away with the same idea or outcome? We would probably all say yes, but it's a much deeper understanding. And I like to call it or refer to it as our intelligence in the workplace. So it I think when we think about intelligence, most of us equate it to what we know, of course, and especially the technical knowledge that we have as whatever we chose to be our vocation. And sometimes we go so far as to think of that in quantity of information. And that's all important. We need to be subject matter experts in our careers. But at work, what I see as intelligence, it's really about activating that knowledge, recognizing the moment, reading the context of what's going on around us, and bringing all of that right knowledge forward in the right way to accomplish whatever we're driving to accomplish. And that becomes situational awareness. It's knowing that the same idea presented in one way can actually produce two different outcomes or two different reactions or two different understandings by two different people in the same setting. And so it's that human knowledge that is what really drives career growth and actually reduces friction in the workplace.
Yes. Speaking of two different people, I remember listening to your episode on the wiring gap, and honestly, the idea stayed with me. I remember speaking regarding this in your pre interview also, that we experience our intent, other experience our actions. And
Mm-hmm.
that is such a powerful way to explain workplace misunderstanding.
Mm-hmm.
And for listeners hearing this concept for the first time, how would you explain this wiring gap in simple terms?
So the wiring gap is the reason I refer to it as the wiring gap because it's about distance, right? It's about what is our intent? What message do we want to communicate? What do we want to accomplish out of it? And then the impact on the other person. How was our interaction interpreted by that or received by that individual? And I refer to this interpretation layer, that what we are experiencing, even the way that I'm communicating nonverbally right now, right? Because I get
Mm.
excited. I use my hands a lot on this topic. But I'm communicating something both verbally and nonverbally. And this interpretation layer that's invisible to us as the sender is being influenced by, say, your past experiences or your current role responsibilities, your current stressors, your current personal values and culture. There are all of these unique factors about an individual that if we need to proactively spend time getting to know someone and understanding them and knowing those as much as we can about those elements of the person so that we can adjust how we communicate so that they receive it the way we intend. So it's this distance between I refer to it as intent versus impact, but it can also be intent versus perception, those types of things.
Yeah. Yes, because speaking of perception and speaking of the present communication that we're trying to execute, the person speaking through ideas may appear uncertain and the quiet person may appear disengaged. And this is through my perception, I believe, because even though neither interpretation is necessarily true, I guess. And I have been part of such a setup and environment for a really long time, working into the well established industry that feels extremely relevant in modern workplaces where people are collaborating constantly. And I think workplaces today require a very different definition of intelligence than before.
Mhm.
It, I guess it's about awareness. Can you read the room? Can you sense attention? Can you understand what people are not saying? Because after investing into learning, because I'm responsible for the few team members now, I realized that I need to walk into a mile in others' shoes for me
Mhm,
to understand what they're going through. And one of my directors gave me this best advice that Rohit, you need to listen
mhm.
because they want to communicate. Do you think that emotional and social awareness are becoming just as important as technical capability?
I do, and I actually believe it's more important because it does it does 2 very critical things that we all want in our career. We want lower friction, so greater understanding, obviously, we aren't misreading each other and misinterpreting and maybe even taking a comment that was about the work somehow personally. So it removes all of those I refer to them as misreads, just misunderstandings of what someone said or their actions and filtering it through that interpretation layer and reading it differently. When we understand someone, we know their intent and we understand who they are, and so we can interpret that more closely to what they mean. But so that's really important. That's the awareness or the situational awareness and understanding. And then, of course, the social connection. So I refer to both of these as just human knowledge or our human intelligence in the workplace. And the social interaction, if I'll share an example of how it can be very different. And I'll use trust specifically and how two different approaches to work build trust differently. And this is what could cause some friction. Some people are, and I happen to be this way. I'm very goal oriented. I'm very goal motivated, and I like to know what needs to get accomplished. And so I can over index, or my natural orientation is to start with, okay, what do we need to accomplish today? What needs to get done? And understanding how is it going to impact the larger goal. Others are relationship first. So my approach to work builds trust through the work. I'm talking about the work, but I'm also getting to know that person. But to someone who is a more relationship first focused person, they need to feel benevolence and your competency and your integrity before they can engage in the trust. And so if you think about that, those feel like two
Mm,
polar opposite situations, right? So a person that approaches work the way that I do can feel that conversation as delay or maybe even so far as wasting time. The other person feels like, no, it's very valuable to me and I really want to understand you. And really, what they're trying to understand is who you are as a person, and then they can deliver higher quality work too. So neither person is wrong, they're just different. And so once we understand those two kind of opposite approaches to that's just one of the elements, but understand that, then we can actually connect deeper with that individual. So I absolutely have learned over my career those different aspects of people. And so I know with one person, it's okay to take 10 minutes and just say, how's it going? I would typically do it at the end of the conversation, like get through the work and then say, okay, is there anything, how are you doing? Are there any barriers? For some people, you need to start with that. And that's okay. You just need to be aware of it.
yes, it sounds like in my personal experience, I don't like to be managed. I just like to be given instruction. And I
Mm-hmm.
know I'm efficient enough because I will come back to you. I will ask questions
Mm-hmm.
like, what do you have in mind, the end goal? This is
Mm-hmm.
what I have in mind, and let's collaborate and execute it. And few people, they need a little pampering. They need a little small talks. They
Yes.
need a little assurance. And like you said that both are same positive intent, but
Mm-hmm.
the interpretations are different.
That's right.
And that interpretation layer that you just mentioned is so fascinating. But I think
Mm-hmm.
the intention matters, and like you said, the end goal is the bigger picture.
That's
And
right.
your discussion around conflict styles also stood out to me because workplace has people wired differently around tension.
Mm-hmm.
Some people addresses issues immediately and others need time before they can process and respond. And
Mm-hmm.
some avoid conflict completely. We have this, have you heard about this sandwich approach that the first layer of bread, then the jam, then the third layer of bread? The first layer of bread is like we will give you a compliment. The second layer we will have a tough talk, and the third layer again we will give some positive feedback.
Right.
Many people may not know this as a in India we believe it is kind of a sales strategy.
Mm-hmm.
But when those styles collide, everyone starts building stories about each other.
Mm-hmm.
Someone
That's
will
right.
say that the person is aggressive or maybe an avoidant or maybe they don't care. So Do you think that workplace conflict is actually misinterpretation more than bad intent?
100%. 100%. It is because everyone has the same goal. We all want to work well, right? We want to produce high quality work. In the core, there are very few people that are just trying to go through the motions. There are some, but that's very rare. Everyone's intention is to move everything forward. It's just different approaches, and so we need to recognize that that can be different. And I can build on your conflict example. Some people do face it head on. They're like, okay, it's natural, and they're we all have competing responsibilities. So there is built-in natural tension in organizations, and that's because that's by design to keep everything moving profitably, from a financial standpoint or procedurally, or there are real reasons for it. Everybody has their role. We just need to recognize those differences, but so that will naturally cause what some people, tension or maybe even conflict. The people that are just like, okay, let's resolve it. Let's figure it out.
Yeah.
Those people are they're good in those situations. There are some people who it just makes them so uncomfortable that they walk away. They need to leave it and just hope that it resolves itself on its own. You can learn to accept more of it and one way or the other, but we just need to recognize that just because someone walks away, we need to be that situational awareness, say, "Oh, that was a conflict situation." And so that
Yeah.
makes sense. Maybe they are just uncomfortable with conflict and helping them see how it's natural. That's a coaching opportunity, in my opinion, to say that's natural. We need to have those disagreements to make sure that everything works together as it should.
Yeah, I agree. Because even the conflicting arguments, especially it says that you're thinking and you're have your own ideas and you're giving a lot of input and focusing on the end goal. And I think the bigger picture that will definitely help the whole team or the organization. Do you have any scenarios in your coaching that you have experienced, that any conflict situation that you can share?
Sure. Well, there. I can talk about some natural tendency.
Yeah.
There can typically be natural tension between, say, finance and sales, and especially around the end of like the end of the month or even end of quarter, because sales is committed to a certain number, right? They are every individual salesperson is responsible for a percentage of the revenue and profitability in the
Yeah.
organization. And so they're trying just to achieve that, what they've committed to. Finance is responsible for keeping the financial health of the organization. And sometimes sales may want to offer a discount at the end of the quarter so that they can get their numbers and achieve that high level number. But finance needs to manage a lot of the times the bottom line. And so that feels like complete tension, right? That's a major
Yeah.
conflict. But when you understand both of the functional areas' responsibilities, you can come to agreement. And so you just need to respect their responsibilities and roles and understand them and why they're not just like finance is not just saying no to you. They're saying we
Yeah.
need to really think about the profitability, and that's why. And the onus is on the financial person to say this would actually make this customer unprofitable for us. So it's those types of intellectual conversations that can be had. That's natural tension. And the
Yeah.
salesperson, if they ultimately can't offer it, they will be disappointed, but at least they'll have the understanding as to why.
Right.
I
Because
think there are a lot of examples. I could give examples between, say, customer service and product, right, or sales and engineering. There is just natural tension again for the betterment of the entire organization.
And one thing I keep thinking about is how careers are often shaped quietly through perception. And in our initial discussion, we spoke about like through performance reviews or through big achievements, but through small everyday moments
Mhm,
and how someone responds under pressure, how safe people feel communicating around them, how
mhm,
adaptable they are,
mhm,
how they make others feel in difficult situations. Because this kind of conflict sounds really personal because
mhm,
people can feel it, and yet most professionals focus almost entirely on output.
mhm.
And so, do you think people underestimate how perception influences career growth?
Most likely, I would imagine that one thing that we all come into the workplace and we think growth is just about effort. How much effort do I put in? What's the quality of my work? And that's all very important. We need to produce high quality work, but when something stalls, a natural tendency is say, "Oh, I just need to put more effort into it." And that might not be the source at all. There are a couple of things that drive upward mobility, whatever how you describe it. Maybe it is managing people, or is it maybe it's managing a project, or just taking on more interesting projects, or a broader responsibility. It comes down to not only your intelligence, but how you're growing your decision making and problem solving. And to be able to grow those, you actually need input from other parts of the organization or other individuals, so that human intelligence influences the strength of our decisions, the strength of our problem solving. And that's what people start to recognize. And meaning, like your boss, or your boss may start to immediately recognize, oh, the quality of the work is improving. They're thinking at the next level up, or at another, more broadly, and thinking more strategically. And what's influencing that, and what they'll then start to see is like, oh no, they're collaborating at a whole nother level. They're able to take in input from different organizations, from individual and different organizations, and process all of that information to help bring something better than they could have created on their own. And that's what leadership is. It's about understanding different responsibilities, needs, and goals, and then also at some point bringing everyone along on the decision. So and you need to be able to communicate the decision in a way that each individual understood it, so that they don't feel like they were just they were maybe even ignored, or dismissed their input. You need to illustrate how their input was considered, and then how to bring them all along. And that's what that's what I mean when we talk about perception, is who are you within the organization? What's the strength of your human knowledge?
Agree. We had one of our guests, Jess. She is a senior manager with one of the leading multinational companies, and she was there for an episode called Performance Review. She mentioned the same thing of the communication part, where even herself as a leader, when she is engaging and planning meetings with reportees and giving them goals and directions and what kind of work is expected. Even after that, she was hearing complaint that I work harder than everyone else, then why am I not progressing? And like you said, it's not just about the daily goals or business as usual. It's at a longer term. So you need to think more from the business perspective. What else, another skill set can be developed, and what another projects or roles can be overtaken, rather than you stepping out from your current comfort zone and moving on to another level. So you can have that healthy negotiation in terms of money, incentives, growth. And
Exactly.
but often this missing piece isn't effort, it's awareness, like you said.
Hmm.
And the awareness is of how they communicate and how they react and how they emotionally impact the room.
That's right.
I was very fascinated with the framework you created, intelligence into reflection, into adjustment equals to growth. Correct?
Hmm.
And because intelligence alone is not enough, and reflection, without reflection, people repeat unconscious patterns. And that is what I've learned through Zandra, and I'm excited to speak with you about it. And
Hmm.
without adjustment, awareness never becomes growth. So,
Hmm.
how can professionals become more aware of the signals they're sending at work? This is my personal question.
Sure. So I would say the intelligence. So I'll give a quick example of each of the elements of what I refer to as the performance loop, and it's really about creating your own self feedback process. And it starts with, what do I know about this person? So the intelligence piece. What do I know about the people that I'm engaging with primarily on a daily basis, right? And then maybe there's a specific experience that you had. Maybe it was a meeting that you presented in. When you come back to reflect about what was the takeaway from that meeting. I talk about, most of us think about replay as reflection as replay. And we're thinking about it again from our perspective. Did I say what I wanted to say? Did did I accomplish what I wanted to accomplish? And if you say yes, then that's just replaying your intent. It's not looking at it from the other side, or other point of view of what was my impact. And so you need to ask different questions. Did I feel the alignment in the room? Did I notice someone wasn't tracking with me? Did I need to answer a different type of question? And was there truly agreement? Did everyone have the same understanding when we left the room? And if they didn't, then the reflection turns into, what would I change to make that? And what would I change or adjust based on what I know about each of the individuals, whichever one maybe wasn't in alignment or didn't have there was there wasn't clarity with an individual afterwards, then maybe it's I need to start with more of the why. Why are we
mm,
doing this? Some people, it's okay to lead with the answer and then fill in the blanks. Others want to understand the why in more detail and then come along to the conclusion so that they can see it. And you need to know, again, those are a little bit like the trust example that we talked about. You just need to know, where do I start? And that's why preparing for each interaction and each communication is so critical. We can say,
mm,
we oftentimes we can just be on autopilot. Oh, I'm going to the next meeting. But what do you what how did you prepare for that meeting based on the individuals in that meeting? And how do I need to communicate differently? So the adjustment piece is then testing it. You identify one variable, one thing that you're going to change, because if you have 10 or you try to change too many things, you're not going to know which one worked, or maybe none of them do, right? So you make one adjustment. Maybe it is leading with the why with someone and then coming to and bring them along to the conclusion. And you start to, and then your reflection is, okay, did that change? Did the clarity and agreement and alignment come together faster? And if it did, then that was the
mm.
right adjustment. And if it wasn't, then maybe you need to think differently about what else would need to adjust. So that's the performance loop. It's always continuously running. We're always acquiring more knowledge about someone or something else or some functional area, something about the business. How does it apply to what I'm doing? Then we have individual experiences that we then truly reflect on from the other person's perspective. Try to put, to you said, as you said, walk in their shoes. How do you put yourself in their seat and think, okay,
Mm.
did they receive it? And then I made an adjustment. Did it work or not? Do I need to adjust something else? So that's the performance loop.
Fascinating because after our discussion and after listening to your all the series of episodes on YouTube, I
Hmm.
started to think from that perspective, and the intelligence and the reflection part were resonating with me because I have a reputation that I'm not good at small talks and good morning because until I have that first cup of coffee, I'm not ready.
Yeah, sure.
and
That's natural.
Yes, and there is a person in the office, and she was like, "Really, good morning, good morning." But there was a time when I didn't answer, and later she was like, "You're rude." And I was like, "This is a very strong statement." Then I did, I did reflected on that. I did put an effort on that. I realized that okay, she's an important member of the team. She has some knowledge that is quite critical, and I need that in future. And
Right.
instead of making it awkward, and after having a reputation of being rude and making it uncomfortable conversation at her desk, I started wishing her good morning
Very good.
proactively.
Yes.
And I guess maybe it is a small example, but this is a learning I have. It's a takeaway from me from that episode.
Oh,
And
great.
I'm planning to like incorporate this in every aspect of my life because like you said that I was operating on a default mode. But
Hmm.
now I will proceed with consciousness,
Right.
with awareness and with intention. Because every conversation I thought it just work related. I need to get it done and I need to log off at 6. But no, at the end of the year, each day of this interaction, I think it's gonna give a positive result in the end. And I think that is going to matter a lot.
That's great. Thank you for sharing that. And I'm so glad it was helpful. That's the
Yes,
key.
yes.
That's the important thing. And it was just a
And I
small
think,
change, right? It was something
yeah,
that, and she needed to feel that connection because that's the way she was thinking about building trust and being able to collaborate together, that there was an openness. Yeah. That's fantastic. I'm
yes.
so glad that that worked out for you.
And I think this is where many people struggle because
Mm.
what I believe I did is I adapted communication. It felt uncomfortable sometime, but now I don't feel uncomfortable. I enjoy it. I
Good.
realize it's a human part.
Great.
It's something that I'm not experience it, but this is I'm trying it, and this is just who I am. But workplace too requires emotional flexibility, I guess. And
Yes.
I know I'm a positive person. I like to think like that. I do my workout, I do my running, I do, personal stuff to balance things. And I think this is where it is coming from.
Hmm.
And so, where do you think this balance between authenticity and adaptability? Do you think that I managed it well?
I do believe yes, 100%, you managed it well. And there's also, as this individual grows, she'll come to recognize that he's just tired. It's, as
Yeah, yeah, I do
everyone
a morning
starts.
run.
Yeah, exactly. It's just, "Oh, that's right. He's not a morning he's tired in the mornings. He needs his cup of coffee." And then but with that knowledge about you, then it frees it up too, that one so because some morning you may still need that cup of coffee first, right? It's great that you are aware of it, but sometimes you still just need to go grab it. And that's okay when you have that shared understanding. Everything that removes the friction on both sides. But
Mhm.
you brought up an interesting point, just one thing for people that are responsible for other individuals, they need to be
Mm,
even more aware of what environment are they setting. And it's not
mm.
just, is it a psychologically safe environment for everyone to feel they can share their ideas without maybe being shut down or something, or feeling as though they weren't heard. So at a manager level, it's even more critical to reflect on if there's continuing to be friction, then it's typically a process or part of the system that in the environment that needs fixing as well, not just your individual behavior. So there's a broader view that even managers need to reflect on.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Since they have a lot more responsibilities, and especially what I believe more important is that people's first. I've heard this philosophy in many companies,
Hmm.
and I think when it comes to that philosophy or the policy, leadership carry more responsibility and ownership, and in some matters accountability also for people.
Yes, it absolutely does. It becomes even more when we become a manager, it's not about what work we produce. It's about the work that we can achieve through others. And it's
Mm,
about ensuring that our team has what they need. That's our number one priority, is ensuring that our team has what they need to get their job done.
right. I think many professions today feel overwhelmed by modern workplace expectations.
Mhm.
Speaking of AI, you need technical skill, you need communication skill. Communication is like it's always as a trending part from a coaching and learning perspective,
Mhm.
and intelligence, leadership presence, and adaptability. And sometimes people feel that they're doing everything right, but still feel stuck. And do you think that modern careers are becoming more psychologically demanding than before?
I do. And I simplify it in a way that it's about human connection. So I'll talk about the impacts of AI on our careers as I currently see them. And this is it's really driving our strategic thinking and critical thinking, because the what and it's also removing the parts of the jobs that a lot of us don't really care for, the repetitive stuff that feels like, "Oh, I've
Mm.
done this." Like for an engineer, how many times do they wanna code a login page, right? They want to move on to more strategic thinking about what is the purpose of this software, and how can I ensure that it's achieving that goals? And every role, I think across an organization has those opportunities. But to there I think there are 2 ways that that is important. And one is that AI is not always right, and especially what it only has as much context as we share with it. And it's not inside your organization. It's not inside what your culture is, what you're trying to achieve as an organization, what problem you are specifically trying to address. It doesn't have all the inputs. So we actually need to level up our strategic thinking and critical thinking to take the inputs and recognize when and help AI say, you know what, that's not how that is. I understand how you got to that decision, but our situation is this, so that you can continually to enhance and improve the ultimate outcome. So I actually truly see it as another person, like that. You need to understand what do you need to communicate, right? I think in some ways AI can help us with our communication, because if we aren't clear, it
Mm,
gives us completely the wrong answer, right? So it can have a positive impact on that, about our thinking and our communication, so that we can produce something better. But it's never going to have that human knowledge. It can't, it's not
mm,
going to understand your colleagues that you may work with AI on a recommendation, but if you weren't talking to it about this individual, about what their responsibilities are, you're the one that ultimately needs to communicate it and know how to communicate it in a way that they understand and they receive it clearly, and that you demonstrate that you took their considerations into account. So I'm not sure if I answered your question, but I actually believe that human connection is more critical in the world of AI than before.
yeah. Yes, I agree. And you rightly said, because people are like drifting apart away with the instant gratification and with the modern technologies, and they
Mhm,
have lost the human touch, the
mhm.
connection they need to feel. For me to go to office every day to feel that motivation to go to do some amazing work, no amount of efficient or high definition screen or laptop is going to help me that, right? People will drive me. And
That's
for
right.
me to achieve that, people working on that device will help me.
Yes.
And I think I totally echo what you just said, and I completely agree. And for someone listening right now who
Mhm.
feels stuck professionally despite being hardworking and capable, you mentioned the series of questions you can ask in terms of reflection. Is there what's that one question they should ask themselves about how they are being experienced at work?
Oh, that's a good one. The first so there's one they need to understand who they are, and they need to
Mm.
know what is my so there are actually 4 general work styles, and those work styles, the question you need to answer is, "Which one am I?" Because there are higher level general misreads that people have about them. So, my work style, again, is that I'm goal oriented. I communicate very directly. I build trust through the work. So, I'm goal focused or task focused first. Which means how I can get misread is that I only care about my career, that I don't care about the
Oh.
the human elements about it, which is completely counter to who I am personally. And so I needed to be aware of that to recognize, okay, I understand, but I completely understand how that can happen because I like a really fast paced environment. So a slower organization is not a good fit for me. Those are like, oh, well, we'll get to it. I'm like, no, no, we have deadlines. Let's go do it. Let's go get the work done. So you have to understand that. But so knowing who you are and how the other 3 work styles can actually misread you is one of the most insightful pieces of information that you could have about yourself.
Yes. Sometimes I get moved by the conversation, so I take a pause. So that's
Good,
it, something for you to know.
good.
Ah, okay. So I'd also love to talk about Zandra because
Mhm.
what I find interesting is that your work goes beyond traditional career advice. Okay. And it's not just resumes or interview preparation. It feels much more focused on helping people understand themselves professionally. And
Yeah.
can you help us understand what inspired you to build Zandra and
Oh,
what workplace problems were you seeing, that made you
sure.
realize that this work was needed?
Sure, I'll get very vulnerable here. I was later in my career, about 2 decades into my career, and I was really excited about a new job that I had just accepted, and uh, I was leading the marketing organization within this multicultural, it was a global organization. So I was really excited about learning about how to communicate and market to different cultures. And it was just a wonderful opportunity. And something felt off pretty quickly. So I had an established team. So I was the new person into the team, right? And most of the folks on the team, they had worked together for at least 3 years, if not longer. And they had their processes down and how they flow and work, and then I come in, right? So, this is crazy, this new person, and I vividly remember driving home from work one day and saying to myself, and when I think about it, I feel like I said it out loud, but I probably didn't, but that's how vivid it is for me and how visceral it was. I'm like, "I have lost my ability to communicate," and I had been offered new jobs in the past and I moved from being from finance into marketing because someone told me, "No, you know how to communicate with people. You can turn the business problem and have it and communicate in a way that everybody understands." So this was really disorienting. So I worked with a coach and I started to learn about how I was getting misread. And I'm like, people, we all need to understand this early in our careers. That's what's really important so that we can, get rid of all of this friction. So that was my personal experience absolutely led to building Zandra and creating a process and a tool for people to understand their work style and their approach so that they can have this insight and build the human knowledge muscle, if you will, to connect and to, accelerate their career growth in whatever that means for them individually.
Before this conversation, I actually spent some time using Zandra because I wanted to understand what experience generally feels like for a professional using this platform.
Mhm.
And let me just refer to the questions and answers so I'll be able to explain very clearly. The platform begins with conversational workplace question instead of rigid assessment.
Right.
Yeah. And uh, it
It
the first question, yeah, tell me.
it's designed to be a natural conversation that so I am
Yeah.
also because of my experience, I'm a certified coach as well. I'm a career coach, and it's the framework is to have those is to have a conversation to understand who you are. It's not a personality exam. It's certainly not a personality test. It's not a intelligence test. It's truly like it's building human knowledge.
The way it helped me was that the question was, when asked what makes a generally good work day for me,
Mhm.
my answer was that it is casual. I just mentioned focus work, minimal distraction, and getting a lot of work done.
Mhm.
And the follow-up question was, when asked how I react when expected work interrupts my rhythm, I answered that when it interrupts my rhythm, I get irritated and I get
Mhm.
angry.
Mhm.
And so again, the question was how I solve problems or work through difficult situation. I answered that I fully focused with no disturbances and had freedom. So I realized that when Zandra interpreted this into analytical thinking style and deep concentration based processing, so
Yes.
the reflection was surprisingly accurate for me because it says that I have this, instead of judging the response negatively, the platform interpreted as someone who performs best. There is clarity, planning, and uninterrupted execution.
Yes.
So this felt psychologically mature to me because I have never seen myself like this.
Yeah. I can see
And
I can recognize you in the work that we've done behind the scenes. So, but it's a very logical, like, your approach to work is I need to process internally. I want to understand deeply. If I have questions, I'll ask them. Otherwise, I'm going to work through it. I can work through it on my own, which is a tremendous strength, right?
yes, I was not aware of my strength.
Right. Right.
So this tool, it helped me do this reflection.
Mhm.
And there was this behavior under pressure that there was this question when asked how people will describe me during high pressure situation. I
Uh-huh.
answered reactive and assertive, and I draw healthy boundary and speak up about my bandwidth. And the way Xanda interpreted this was that someone who focuses on protecting workflow and becomes stronger when the stakes are high.
Mhm.
And it says a lot about me because I understand the importance and criticality of the work as well, and I believe in the time management as well. When Sandra says that I need to prioritize work, get it sorted with good planning, and execute it, I realize that is me.
Right. Good.
And the most insightful part was that my intense focus on delivery and outcomes may unintentionally make other people feel emotionally disconnected or excluded. Even that was not my intention. So, this is the
Never.
reactive part I'm speaking of
Mhm.
because connecting to the framework of intelligence and reflection and adaptability, I had the intelligence, but the reactive part is helping me reflect that, okay, I am reacting. I need not do that. I need to adapt the fact that I need to be polite and humble. I will say that I need to create a dialogue as well. I worked on that. That right now my plate is full. You tell me which one to prioritize. I will do that politely. So instead of
Right.
taking the ownership, I put the ball in my boss's court and ask them to tell me what I need to prioritize. And it was so smoothly managed, all this communication. And I think that the final review of Zandra was so thoughtful and it was psychologically intelligent.
Great.
It was highly reflective,
Mhm.
which I just mentioned. And at the end, I was emotionally aware.
Mhm. Excellent.
And the most important part was it was surprisingly accurate because this is,
Right. And you can see yourself you probably see yourself more clearly now, I would imagine.
yes,
Good.
because people force labels on each other.
Yes.
People just, that is so easy to just pass a comment and say some about someone or something just randomly. But that is not right because yeah, to find a calling in career or in life or just to find something that is pleasurable to do in life, it takes sometimes a decade. And for
Right.
someone who is trying to achieve this with the help of AI, And I think uh, this doesn't force people into labels. It has professional to understand, and it did to me.
Good. I'm so excited to
And
hear that. Thank you for sharing that.
I wish, you know, and honestly, I think many professionals could benefit from this kind of awareness
Mhm,
before workplace frustration, misunderstanding, or communication issues that are quietly being affecting their career.
mhm. Yeah.
Because now that I'm part of this project, I do this podcast, so there's an ongoing basis learning for me, and this is part of my journey. So why just to learn and not implement it? So I implement that in my life, and to be honest, it is giving me a lot of positive result, and I'm glad we are having this conversation with support of your tool. I had a self reflection moment. There was a realization moment also, and it is helping me, and I thank you,
Uh,
Leslie, for that.
I'm so that is the reason I built Zandra, so I'm so glad that you've had such a positive reaction and growth out of it. Think that's wonderful.
And what else I can benefit from this tool? Can you tell me more how it operates? Like how can one use it for the listener if they want to access it?
Sure. So the first part is what you described as understanding who you are, right? Understanding and greater self knowledge. But then it turns into now you need to grow your knowledge of others because just like our message is going through that interpretation layer, what is being sent to us goes through our personal interpretation layer. So we could be misreading people as well, and so we need to grow that awareness. So understanding how we're misreading other people within Zandra, she can then help. She helps you with the reflection exercises. She'll help you. There are a couple ways that she helps. She helps you understand what trust really means in the workplace. Like so, there's a deeper understanding of what intellectual humility is and what critical thinking is. Like she can help build those skills around gathering human knowledge. And then she has exercises. She helps with the she within the product itself, she guides the reflection exercises. So, for example, with your wonderful example of how your colleague wants to lead with a warmth reception or introduction each morning, that you could build on that. So what else you would think about, what else is that telling me about that individual? And Zandra can help you go deeper into understanding that individual's unique characteristics as well. So she just helps with that performance loop. She continually increases your human skill knowledge. And then and then she builds that into the reflection exercises. And then she'll ask you, okay, you tested that adjustment. How did it go? So that's how
Mm,
she is your career partner.
indeed, that's a good career partner
Mhm.
because we do. I'm from India, and culturally we believe that even though you choose to walk alone or even in the battlefield you want to fight alone, you need a teacher. We believe in guru. We believe
Yes.
in leadership. We believe in guidance. We do
Mhm.
believe in that part. And I'm glad you did this. And I think many professionals, especially the young professionals who are just entering into market, they will have something so handy and accessible that is actually life changing. Because if I would had this during the earlier days of my career, I would have made some very different decisions.
With less friction, right? It would less anxiety, less personal,
Mm,
friction. Yeah. Good. I'm so glad she was helpful. That made my day.
yes. Thank you. Yes, this was such a thoughtful conversation, and I genuinely think this topic is going to resonate with a lot of professionals because everyone has experienced misunderstanding, friction, communication friction, or
Mhm.
perception gaps at some point in their careers. And thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for inviting me, and I loved having this conversation, and I'm so grateful that you experienced Sandra, and I'm very thankful that it was a positive experience, so thank you so much.
Thank you.